Ironic, your name is Bales, and
Yes, sir.
you grow hay and make
Bale
bales
hay,
of
that's
hay.
what we do. Bales hay sales, that's the
Yeah.
name. And we get asked.
Yeah, so that's not all you do. You also have a farm store, because I got the hat to
Yes,
show
sir.
for
Yes,
it.
sir.
I got a hat similar to the one you got. And by the way, my oldest son came home 4th of July, and he said, "Hey, I like that hat."
We'll just mail you some
When
more.
he went home, when he went home, he
Well.
took it. He took my hat.
But that's a good sign. That's a good sign for me. If he just said, Dad, I don't want that hat, that's a bad sign.
So it's running around Atlanta, North
Good.
Atlanta somewhere.
Good.
Hello, I'm Zippy Duval, and I'm president of American Farm Bureau and host for the Farmside Chat here again today. And I just spent 8 weeks traveling around the United States and went into 9 different states, and had the pleasure of going into 4 western states as I was traveling around out west. And one of those states was in Arizona, and had the opportunity to visit with my guest today, Trevor Bales, who comes from Arizona, Buckeye, Arizona, and had the opportunity to visit with him on his farm out in Arizona. So today, he and I are going to talk a little bit about his operation. We're going to talk about drought and what it looks like in Arizona, and how the farmers are suffering out there through it. And then maybe we'll talk a little bit about his social media activity and what he does to talk about his family and farm, and to inform people across America about agriculture. So, Trevor, welcome to Farmside Chat. We're proud to have you here, and I sure did enjoy my visit with you on your farm.
I did as well. Thank you for having me on your farm chat. This is exciting. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing what you got, what you do, especially in the social media side. But before we start there, tell us about your farm. I understand you're a 6th generation.
Yes, sir.
Tell us about your farm and a little bit about the history and what role you play in that
I'll
farm.
do a quick history. My ancestors, the Belote family. So my last name is Bales, B-A-L-E-S, just like a bale of hay. But my ancestors, the Belotes, came to Arizona in 1836. But they finally got their homestead finished in 1891. So they were ranchers or cattlemen. So they'd run cattle, and where we are located is right along the Gila River. They picked that spot because running cattle, you need water, and that's why we are where we are now. Years later, when it comes time to land values, property values, we are in the lowest value area because of the river. They said we're in a floodplain, so it worked out when they moved here. And now it's like, oh man, there's some nicer areas they could have picked, but you never know. Back then they couldn't have guessed that. Now I don't remember the history on when the Bales came into my great grandpa. They came here for the dry climate for his health. And then my great grandpa Wallace Belote my great grandpa Wallace Bales married Alberta Belote, and then he slowly started buying farm ground from his in-laws. And then my grandfather came along, and my uncle, and they farmed quite a bit. And my father and my grandfather stuck together. No, my grandfather and my great grandfather stuck together more, and they grew the farm to what it is now. And my great grandfather passed back in '94, and so it was my father and my dad for a while. Now my grandfather has retired. He's 80. He'll turn 81 this October, and my dad runs the show. He's the decision maker. Myself and my dad's first cousin, who is descendant from the Bales as well. My dad's first cousin met. He and I work together and bring all the options, all the information to my father, and my father with his expertise or time in farming. The three of us then come up with a plan. I know a lot of families have a hard time working together, especially father-son. And my dad, I love working for my dad. I'm extremely blessed and very, very lucky. He listens to my ideas and my suggestions, and it's not just okay, whatever, you're the young guy, whatever. I love working for my father. It is a blessing. It is so much fun. We get along great. And even my dad's cousin Brian Turner, that guy his patience are amazing. I kind of get wound up and want to go, and I kind of known for tearing stuff up and breaking some things, and maybe not always checking grease and oil and air pressures and water and radiators like I should. Like I preach to my guys, did you check the water? Did you check the oil? I'm kind of, did it start? It started. Let's get going. And so I've gotten in a few binds. And Brian, oh my gosh, he's such a great man. He's taught me a lot, and with his patience of working with me, it's been great. But between the three of us and our office manager, Lisa, but the three of family members, it's a great team. It's been a lot of fun. So back to the history part, they start off as the cattlemen, and then they put in a feedlot. And so within the farming side, they were always growing crops to supply the cattle in the feedlot. And then they started branching out and growing cotton. They turned into is probably close to a 50-50 on cotton and feed for the feedlot and other surrounding dairies. There used to be a lot of small dairies around us that didn't have enough acres to farm all of their own crop themselves. So my grandfather would then grow for dairies, grow for his feedlot, and along with the cotton. I think the biggest he said he got up to with leased properties and everything else, he said he was close to about 4,000 acres. I think we owned 1,000 acres, maybe like 1,200 acres at the time, but he had picked up several leases and had quite a bit of other projects going on, rented ground, leased ground, custom harvest ground as well. So at one point he got up there, but now we hover more around about 2,000 acres with leases that we have, and then do some custom harvesting depending on the time of year. We'll pick up some dairy acres that the milk cows don't need. So I married into agriculture, which is handy. My father-in-law, when he lets me know, hey, the dairy cows are filled up, we can jump in and get some custom harvest and buy some more hay from him.
So everything you do now is hay?
Yes.
So,
we used to a little bit. I guess I didn't like that. Now we're like 90%, 85% alfalfa, 80% alfalfa. I'm trying to think how many acres of Bermuda grass we have right now, but it's everything we grow now basically feeds a horse or a cow or a goat.
Yeah.
I actually feed
it's just kind
to
of
the zoo.
Ironic. Your name is Bales. And
yes, sir.
You grow hay and make
bale
bales
hay.
of
That's
hay.
what we do. Bales hay sales. That's the name. And we get asked.
Yeah. So that's not all you do. You also have a farm store. Because I got the hat to show for it.
Yes, sir.
I got a hat similar to the one you got. And by the way, my oldest son came home 4th of July, and he said, "Hey, I like that hat."
We'll just mail you some more.
When he went home, he took it. He took it. He took my hat.
But that's a good sign. That's a good sign for me. If he'd have said, "Dad, I don't want that hat," that's a bad sign.
So it's running around Atlanta, North Atlanta somewhere.
Good.
Yeah. So tell me how the drought has affected your farm and your surrounding farms there. And is the drought just this 1 year, or is this going on multiple years?
It's been going on. My grandpa tells me when he was young and he'd go on the roundups when they're working cattle, they'd get a lot of rain, and the Gila River we were next to would run. And now, I even remember, I'm 35, so I remember being quite a bit younger, before I was 10, big monsoon storms and the power going out, lightning and craziness, and things just being all the next morning, branches off of trees and whatnot. And even the winter, I remember getting quite a bit of rain, and we just don't get those types of storms, those type monsoons anymore. This year, we have had quite a bit. We've had several storms blow through with pockets of rain, so this year's been more of a typical monsoon. But I would say over the past 20 years, it's slowly just a little bit stayed on the dry side. So I would say I would call the last 20 years a drought for sure, with a few years here and there getting some rain, but not really ending a 5, 10-year, 20-year drought for sure. And luckily for the farm side where we are, there's a lot of water right below us. It's extremely salty, but it's just 15 to 20 foot below us. And so on our district where we are, we pump a lot of water. We get quite a bit of water from the city. It's a water that's gone through their sewage plant, and so I don't know for sure, don't quote me on this, but I think we get it for free because it can't be used for anything else. So in our district, we're not allowed to grow produce or anything that would go to a person to eat. So that's one negative, I guess, because produce can be lucrative, but it's also, you can have a huge loss from what I understand. But anyways, so we get water from the city, and then we also pump a lot out of the ground that way as well. But just north of us, they get water from other areas. And unfortunately, I guess right now I'm a little ashamed to say I don't know enough about the surrounding irrigation districts to know what they get from the Colorado River. I do know that some areas around us are losing a little bit of water. And a lot of that has to do with corn prices were higher, and dairies out here were able to freight in corn cheaper than they could grow it. So they just grow alfalfa. This year there's been corn everywhere, and corn takes a lot of water. So they've been using quite a bit more water. Now, is that because of the drought, or is that just because they planted more corn? I can't answer that. I don't really know. I've not really looked into it, I guess, too much.
So when I was there, I saw that you had a new piece of machinery. Looked new to me, or you really just done a good job cleaning it. It's called a steamer.
Very new, yeah.
Yeah, I have never seen that concept because in Georgia the air is so wet we don't need any way to put moisture on it. So tell me why a steamer and why do you do that?
There's definitely a split in the United States, almost dead center. If you're east, you have a problem with too much moisture. If you're west, it's dry, windy, and you don't have enough moisture. Where we are, like I said, a lot of other places, it doesn't have to be in the southwest. It could be north. There's a lot of high plains deserts where when they cut their alfalfa, they don't get enough moisture, dew moisture on the hay, or just ambient moisture to keep the leaves. So they go to rake it, and the leaves fall off, and then you go to bale it, and every time that plunger and that baler, whether it's a big baler or a small baler, every time that plunger pushes that hay in, it knocks the leaves off. So this small family in Utah came up with the idea for the dad was actually at a taco shop. He watched a lady take a hard shell flat taco and steam it, and then it made it soft, and she was able to turn it into a taco. He thought, if she can make a crispy taco soft enough to turn into a taco, or a crispy flat tortilla, I guess, soft enough to turn it into a taco, I can do that with hay. So he, early 90s, I think it was, started developing this steamer concept. And it kind of got shut down for a little bit because you're dragging around a massive boiler behind you, and everyone got kind of nervous, like, this seems kind of dangerous. But it really doesn't run very high pressure. I think like 15 psi is what it gets up to now. And so for the past, I think this is the 12th year now, they've had big bale steamers out, and this is the first year of actually production on small bale steamers. Last year they had some out on test farms, but then this year they actually had, I think they released 22. I don't remember what they released, but yeah, it's been great for us. Some years we do get quite a bit of moisture, and we make some beautiful hay. But some years we have some very windy springs and windy summers, and we just can't bank on crossing your fingers and hoping Mother Nature gives us a good year. And what it's also done, if you think of baling hay, getting in that prime time as a window, you have a small window, so to make up for that small window, you buy more equipment. So we were running 5, and we were thinking about getting a 6th baler, which means 5 tractors, 5 men, 5 balers. With these steamers, you're opening your window a lot more. So instead of running 5 or 6 balers, we are only running 2 now. So those 2 guys, they work a lot more hours, but instead of having multiple jobs throughout the day, they instead of working at night a couple hours and doing other stuff, that's their only job. They bale hay 8-9 hours a night, and then they're done. They go home. Well, they service their equipment, and they go home and go to sleep. And in this time we're in right now, it's extremely hard to get employment and to get employees. No one, is wanting to work. So we were up against a very difficult situation of buy these very expensive machines or try to get more people. So we went with the steamers.
Earlier, I was telling you before we started the podcast that a lot of my listeners are not farmers. So they may be interested, and if you don't mind sharing, tell them what a machine like a tractor and a steamer and a baler would cost a farmer. If you had a young farmer going into farming business, he had to buy that. Off the top of your head, how much money you think?
Well, first, before you even get to the baler, you've got to buy a swather. I don't know what swathers are. I remember the old New Holland sickle swathers were like $40,000, and I think now they're $200 and $250 with the rotaries. I think that's what they are. Yep. Then you got to buy the rake, which those are only $35,000, $40,000. I think those are $30,000. But you have to have a tractor to pull the rake. Another $20,000 just get a small tractor. Then if you go the route we went and you're going to do 3-string bales and you want a steamer, so we've got to buy a bigger tractor to pull the heavy steamer that has 600 gallons of water in it, and a boiler and a baler. We've got $150,000 tractors, $150,000 steamer, and then an $80,000 baler. Now, if you're going to want to make big bales, you need a much bigger tractor because a big baler is heavier. So now you've got a $250,000 tractor. You've got I don't know what a big baler costs, $200,000. I don't know. I'd be guessing $150 maybe. But then their steamers are $250,000, $265,000. You very quickly you're at $1 million. Very quickly, and you got to have a way to pick the bales up, employ the guys driving it. So everything we do is strategic. You can't just make a snap decision. We've got to look at numbers, and that's what we got to test out. That the first baler we tested out in August last year. It's almost a year ago, and I think it took us 4 or 5 months to really make the decision, and it really helped. Our 4 of our 5 balers were getting older, so we had to make the decision. Okay, do we need to get 5 new balers, or just get 2 new balers with 2 steamers? So we ultimately went with the steamers, but it's extremely expensive, which sometimes it on an off year, or especially for us, we'd lost just under 500 acres of leased property that we had leased. It's going for some other farmers bought some, and some's going to housing. I think a warehouse is going somewhere, but oh man, you just spend all this money on this new equipment, and then all of a sudden, whoops, there goes 500 acres. Like, oh man. So you do lose a little sleep sometimes. But every farmer.
It takes a lot of money. It takes a lot of money and a lot of patience, and a lot of a community that's willing to embrace what you're doing to be able to farm. And so I know we probably called out some names of machinery that some of those people didn't really know what that was. So what is a swather?
The swather is just a giant lawnmower. It just lays the hay down. Different, not a combine. A lot of people, if you've seen equipment, there's combines. So those are amazing pieces of equipment in themselves. The swather is just a giant lawnmower. Ours, because our fields are very smooth and flat, will go like 18 miles an hour in the field. It cuts a 16-foot swath pass, lays it down. We let it sit out and dry for 2 days, 2 or 3 days, depending on the time of year. And then we have a rake comes through, and it flips it over, combining 2 swath paths into one. So you're really doing 2 things at one time. 1, flipping it over. 2, adding them together. So now you have just cut your passes in the field in half. So now instead of your baler following every single pass here, say he makes 1,000 passes, that swather in the field, now you're only making 500 with a baler. But I said 2 things. 1, flips it over, so now the sun can dry out the other side of it. And it doesn't, when the swather cuts, and it's got a 16-foot path, it only lays it down, I think it's a 4 or 5 foot pass. So it cuts 16 foot, but it brings it all into the center, and it squishes it with 2 crimpers, and then spits it out in a 5 foot wide pass. And that's what gets flipped over and raked together. And then,
so that machine in Georgia is called a hay cutter.
A hay cutter,
or hay or disc bind.
Yep.
And we not only have to cut it and put it on the ground in that narrower path, we got to go back and ted it. because the air in Georgia is so moist that you can't just depend on sun. You got to get the bottom up to the top several times.
So if people don't know what
to get
a
it
tedder
to
is,
dry.
it's the opposite of a rake bringing it together. It goes behind the swather and flings the hay everywhere. So it makes it to where it does cover that entire area of the of the field. Yeah.
Yeah. And your alfalfa would lose its leaves.
Yeah, I have a tedder we run on our Bermuda grass and our ryegrass, and we've tried it on the alfalfa in the spring and the fall. I don't know that it seemed like it didn't help it so much because the days are just shorter. I don't know. We'll try it again a little bit here and there, maybe some smaller fields, but it didn't seem to help as much as we were hoping it would.
Yeah, a lot of difference in those variety of grasses because we don't have alfalfa in the south because the humidity just prevents us from being able to keep the leaf on it. There's a little bit, but it's just difficult. Real difficult. But we have Bermuda grass, and ryegrass is our best hay we put up in our area. So it's interesting to see the differences. Of course, we don't have to have a steam.
Yeah.
and we all round bales. We don't see any big square bales like you do.
Even the big 3x4x8s, you don't see them like that? Oh.
No. Everything's
you won't
round
see
bale.
a round bale over here.
Oh, really? That's interesting. So, the closest thing we got that would compare to your alfalfa is peanut hay. After they combine the peanuts, the tops are still there, and that top is very high in nutrients like
Well, they feed it to horses or just cattle? Both, really?
Both.
Oh.
Well, I'm not sure they feed it to horses. I know they feed it to cattle.
Okay, that's interesting. I
Yep,
didn't know that.
sure do.
And they bale it up in a round bale.
But
That's
Yep,
very interesting.
sure do, and they'll put a wrap on outside of it, so because it's very absorbent, so it take on a lot of
Super
water.
interesting.
Okay, so let's move on and talk about your social media. Tell us about that. But by the way, when I was at your farm and somebody put something on my social media, my son-in-law says, "Hey, I watch that guy." So my son-in-law that lives in Huntsville, Alabama, follows you on social media.
Yeah, I try to have fun with it, and I try to have fun and informative, teach people stuff, but then not be too serious all the time. I enjoy having a good time, and so yeah, I try to do both. But I didn't realize. It took me quite a while to realize actually that the way we farm here in Arizona is a bit different. Every area, if you're in the northeast or southeast or northwest, I mean, they're all different. We're all different from each other, but I just realized there weren't a whole lot of Arizona social media platforms out there, and the way we farm is very much like a greenhouse because of our sunlight and the temperature. So we're farming pretty much year round now, and a lot of the country doesn't get to do that. And like we were talking about earlier, the dryness of our climate, we're able to go. So I just thought, hey, what a great opportunity. And a friend of mine, also, he kept bugging me about having a website and selling my hats and my T-shirts. And I was like, man, nobody cares about that. Like, that's kind of dumb. Like, I don't want to be that guy that has my name on all my stuff. And he said, you're an idiot. I think were his exact words. You're an idiot. Your last name is Bales, and you bale hay. Every farmer in the country knows what a bale is, whether it's a round bale, big square, 2-string square, 3-string square, cotton farmer, it goes into a bale. So you just pretty much told me I was an idiot, and so I got a little more serious about social media and on a website so you can actually buy it. Because we used to just give these hats to customers that bought truckloads of hay, or my grandpa used to raise horses, and if they bought a horse, I'd give them a hat. But I'd send these out to people that got a truckload or give it to the driver, and we just sold them in our store if you wanted a store, but it really wasn't. And I was even I wasn't very optimistic about people wanting to buy. I'm like, man, people are going to order these hats. That's craziness. Like, that's silly. I can't tell you right now how many orders I've had, but it's over 1,000 orders of these hats going out and T-shirts going across the country, which to me is super cool. I mean, when people send me pictures of someone else they ran into, man, it gets me excited. I've still yet to see a Bales Hay hat at the airport, so I told myself, man, one day if you see one of your hats at the airport, that's going to be the coolest thing ever. But I've had some cool moments where I've been somewhere and young kids are just very excited to meet me, and then I get excited. I'm like, I can't believe this person's excited to meet me. Then I get excited, and then it's just like two excited little kids, and then I got to remember and I got to act like an adult and be and not act like a little kid. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and I mean, to me, it's gone a lot. It's turned into a lot of stuff, and people love to come by because, like you mentioned earlier, we have a store. We are open to the public 6 days a week. People ask all the time, "Can we stop by?" I'm like, "We're a store. Come on in." And even the other day, someone came through and they asked for Mr. Bales, and I said, "Well, Trevor's not here." They said, "No, is Mr. Bales here?" As a young kid, and my dad happened to be there. He's in and out quite a bit, and so he was so excited to meet my dad. And my dad's like, "Why is this kid excited to see me?" He's like, "You're Trevor's dad." He's like, "Yeah, I am." Like, I don't know what to tell you, but too, and with our climate, a lot of snowbirds come here. This is the place to come in January, February when it's cold a lot of places. So I have got to meet a lot of farmers because they come down here in the wintertime to get out of the cold, and they're like, "We have nothing to do. Arizona's pretty boring. Oh, can we come hang out?" I'm like, "Yeah, come on out." And so a lot of our location has been great for meeting out-of-state people as well. Yeah.
So, what do you like best about the social media? I mean, what's
today? I had a great, like, this is a neat story. It's just happened over the last couple weeks. My father-in-law tells me I need a new retriever truck, which a retriever truck is, I guess, just like it sounds, it retrieves hay out of the field. So the bale wagon or the stack cruiser will pick up a stack of hay, set it down, and this medium-duty truck comes in, and it tilts back, and it picks up the stack of hay, and it can haul it anywhere you want to take it, to a barn or to a customer. My father-in-law says, "Man, I've got one. It's like 20 years old. This thing's old. I need a new one. Keep an eye out for one." All right, cool. This is the embarrassing. I kind of have an addiction to auctions. Like, I love looking at auction. Like if I'm sitting in bed on my phone, I'm 90% looking at junk equipment on an auction site that I don't need, that I want. You could ask my wife. And so anyways, this nice Peterbilt truck pops up. I'm like, "Man, that's a nice truck." Oh, it was in Wisconsin. I'm like, "Oh, dang it, that's a long ways away." Well, I don't think I'm going to bid on it because I can't see it. I really don't. I bought a truck once sight unseen, and that was a terrible mistake. So I was like, I'm not doing that again. Well, like, let's try out social media. So I asked, "Hey, who's near Brownstown?" And I must have had 150 people reach out, anyone from 2 or 3 hours away to a couple guys like, "I'm right here. I live here." So I had two different guys go in. One guy sent me a whole bunch of pictures of it, went over the whole truck. The other guy went in and drove it for me, and he'd owned semis throughout his life. He's like, "Man, this truck's in great shape. Like, it's a nice truck." So I used that information, and then we bid on the truck and we bought it. It's like, "Oh, dang, now how am I going to get this truck back?" Okay, well, it's in Wisconsin, whatever. So I get a freight rate. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, that's like $5 a mile to tow this thing to me." Another guy in California I've met through social media who bales a lot of hay and hauls hay. He says, "Hey, one of my employees is actually in Wisconsin right now. Let's see where he is compared to that truck. He's got a CDL. We'll get him to drive it back." I'm like, "That's awesome." So he calls him up. He's an hour away from the truck. I'm like, "Well, go get it." So I pay it. So I just picked him up this morning. He drove the truck from Wisconsin, Brownsville. No, I don't remember where he lived. Brownstown, Wisconsin. He took it home. He drove it here to Camp Verde, Arizona, where there's a family. Hauser is their last name. They've been in agriculture a long time. His dad, Zach's dad, Kevin Hauser, passed away a few months ago. A super neat guy. Built at their own shop in Camp Verde this retriever bed. It's called a Hauser built retriever bed. And so he met me. I picked him up this morning, an hour and a half away from home. Picked him up, and then I bought another semi the other day up in Salt Lake City, just north of Salt Lake City. And so I'm going to fly that guy up to Salt Lake City, and he's going to drive a semi back for me. So all of that because of social media. I would not have bought that truck. I wouldn't have bid on it. One, because I didn't see it. And two guys went and looked at it for me. And then three, I got a guy to drive it back. I think that's, I don't know, I think that's a pretty neat story, and how social media is a huge negative on this planet. I do think that. People like to argue, but I think it's a huge negative. But I try to use it for better things. And to me, that's just one one way to show how neat social media, how cool it can be, and how much it's brought farmers together as well.
So you just brought one of the subjects up I was going to talk about. That some people are very negative and brutal.
Very much.
How do you handle that?
With the hay sales, with the retail store that we have, I've come across that quite a little bit, not a lot, but I've noticed it's always the people that are a little questionable, like that complain or point stuff out. But we've really not had a lot of negativity that we've had to worry about very much. Maybe we're pretty positive and try to stay upbeat and happy about things, and so maybe that's part of the reason as well. Maybe if we had a negative attitude, if I was negative, or our business had a negative side of it, or we had a lot of problems, I could see that maybe that would lead to more. But we haven't had a lot of negativity, and even when I come across it, I just think maybe this guy's having a bad day. Maybe he's just a negative person. I don't know. I don't really let it bother me too much at all, to be honest. I just kind of, whatever.
My daddy used to say, if you have somebody that's like that, want to be negative or wants to attack you, just kill them with kindness.
Yeah, that's why I try to be very nice to people, and then just get under their skin being a nice person. It's one of my favorite things, actually. Yeah, like, this guy's a jerk. I'm just going to be super nice to him.
I feel the same way. Maybe you can make him have a better day if you kill him with kindness. So one of the things we're facing up here in Washington, D.C. now is talking about raising taxes. And one of those taxes they think about raising is doing away with our stepped-up basis, which if the people that listen to us don't understand that, when land is passed from one generation to the next, they can take a stepped-up basis in the value and not have to pay inheritance tax on that or capital gains taxes on that. So they're talking about doing away with that and making capital gains paid at death, and that's going to be a tremendous burden on small family farms. So I don't know what your knowledge level in there, but how do you feel about that and passing farm on to the next generation?
I'm fortunate that I'm really not too knowledgeable on it. However, my dad is currently, like right now, going through all the estate stuff with his parents while they're still in their mental health is still there. And so a lot of people, and I've read several articles about people waiting too long because it's not a fun conversation. Like, hey, when you guys die, let's talk about that. Nobody wants to talk about when they're dead. So it's been a touchy subject. One, family farms are always touchy subjects, but two, they're talking about, as my grandparents when they start ailing and when they pass. So, but luckily my dad he's like, look, let's not wait too long. So he is dealing with that right now. I don't know. I haven't kept up with it. But without having to know much about it, if a young farmer that already has a lot of debt and equipment now inherits a farm that comes with a hefty price tag because the government says that you inherited this and now you have to pay us a tax on what the value is, man, I mean, you don't have to know a whole lot about the subject, but I mean, I don't think I know any.
Yeah, he wouldn't make it. He wouldn't be able to survive.
Very few farmers are operating without debt. I don't know if I know any.
We actually have done some videos of actual situations, and one of them back before they increased the exemption of inheritance tax. There's a lady in North Carolina said that at age 14, she had to take out all of her college fund money. Their parents had put back all the money she'd set back, from birthdays and Christmases and everything else, just to pay some of the inheritance tax. And I think she ended up still selling part of the farm to be able to keep the farm existing and staying in the family.
That's terrible.
So,
no.
And, the thing that people really don't realize, Trevor, is it's not just agriculture. It's all small businesses across America, and that stepped-up basis is so important, and we need people to understand that, because the general public that's not connected to agriculture, they love small family farms. They love a farm like yours where you and your dad and your uncle work together, or cousin. And, that's what they have this great draw to what you do in that type of family structure. And the more burden they put on us with taxes or regulation, the less chance a small farmer can survive.
It is frustrating when you think about how many times we've paid taxes on something, property tax in Arizona, the equipment we've purchased, the employment tax that we have, the power that we run, all the parts that we buy, the fuel that we buy, everything we buy, and everyone we employ, there is a tax on it. So, and now they throw one more on. It's very frustrating. Very frustrating. I mean, you're just being double taxed on things, and it just doesn't. It's not helping any small business at all, really, or any.
Yeah, and it really concerns me because the average age of the farmer is, 60 plus.
Ooh.
And we need young people to come to agriculture, and we surely don't need to make it impossible.
Oh, they're not making it easier.
Farmers to pass it on to the next generation.
Yeah.
So.
Not making it any easier.
Okay, if we left anything out you'd like to touch on, Mr. Bales?
I can't think of anything. We didn't talk about YouTube, so I do a lot of YouTube stuff as well, and that's just, I don't know. I just kind of started that to show people how we make hay in Arizona. Pretty much, it's kind of boring. I don't know. We just make hay. Then all the little projects I have in between. So I don't want to tell people it's the coolest YouTube you've ever seen. It's just a hay farmer's YouTube. So if you want to see the process, I go through it. Unfortunately, we're low on employees, so I myself am stuck in the same piece of equipment all day, every day. And so when I get a chance to jump out and watch them bale, I do, or a chance to go watch them rake or cut some hay, I will. Yes, 2 or 3 days ago. 2 days. It's been Monday. That was yesterday already. Wow. Man, every day feels longer or further away. Anyways, we had a demoed we run a Heston swather mower, and we demoed a New Holland mower. So I had them race. I put 2 cameras on them, and they're kind of pointed at each other. So we were racing.
I actually saw that. I actually saw that last night, getting ready.
Yeah, so that should be up next week or the week after. But I try to make it fun. I'm hoping next year I'll be able to I'll have some more employees, making some structure, some changes the way we're going to do things. And so I'm hoping to have more guys, and I can see more things. But like I said, it's not really. To some people, you might, man, this YouTube is pretty boring. But if you want to see, how we make hay in Arizona, you can watch and you kind of get an idea. But so I do the Instagram and the YouTube stuff.
Well, Trevor, it must not be too boring because my son-in-law Jared Terry follows you. And
is he a farmer as well, or what's he do? Oh, okay.
No, he works for the federal government with the Army.
Oh, that sounds pretty cool.
And he's kind of a numbers guy. He's
okay.
Type guy, so good guy, but he follows you. He recognized you as soon as I visited your farm. So
see, stuff like that. It still blows my mind that somebody recognized me somewhere. I don't know. It's still very surreal, I guess. Or wow.
Hey, I'll tell you the story. I came to Arizona back when I was running for this position because I had to every 2 years I asked the membership to vote and put me back in this position as president. And I went to Arizona to talk to them about voting for me. And I walked into this reception. There's probably 200-300 people there, all different ages and everything. And I saw this guy on the other end. He's a little short guy, and he had his cowboy hat on. He ducked down, he saw me, and he come running across the room. He snatched his hat off right in front of me, and he said, "Zippy Duval, will you sign my hat?" And I said, "Why?" I said, "How do you even know me?" He says, "I see you on RFD TV every week."
Isn't that funny how things like that can happen? It just kind of catches you. Like, why do you want? Like, I'm not cool or special or anything. No, I'd like to go to bed before around 8 p.m. every night. Like, I don't do anything cool. Like, we just bale hay all the time. I actually run a hay squeeze, which that's a whole other thing nobody's ever heard of as a hay squeeze. Google that. That'll blow your mind. But yeah, like I'm not that cool. I'm just on my phone and my GoPro a lot more than the average person. So,
so if anybody wants to look at some of your stuff in your store online, what do they go to?
So the website is baleshay, BALESHAY.com. Not to be mistaken with Bale Shay, because my mom said Bales Hay's not Bale Shay. Anyways, baleshay.com. Then the YouTube is Bales Hay Farm and Ranch, because I thought it'd be better to get back to the roots, but instead we just made a really long name for ourselves. Bales Hay would be much shorter. And then the Instagram is Bales Hay as well.
The store was pretty neat. Got some awesome hats.
Yeah.
Y'all buy a hat from Trevor.
It's been a work in process. Every year it grows a little bit, it seems like.
I appreciate you joining me.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for hosting me on your
Yes.
farm. I enjoyed seeing your farm, and hope you and your family have
come
a
back.
good rest of the season.
Thank you.
harvest.
Come back anytime. Yeah. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay. God
too.
bless
Bye.
you here. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Farmside Chat. Please be sure to subscribe so that you never miss an episode. And while you're at it, take a minute to rate and review the podcast. This helps us continue to bring you farm fresh content that everyone can enjoy. Until next time, thank you and God bless you.